Money's not an issue. What do you do with your life? And I'm just like, so what's the deal? Like, what's actually going to matter at the end of the day? I get the freedom to design my life, which is a blessing. I live in America. We breathe the air of economic opportunity and financial, really limitless potential. So I'm like, I want to live my life where I'm rising early and I'm winning the morning. And then I can be a river and I can pour that value to other people.
Today we got Isaac Prince. How you doing, Isaac?
Dude, doing well. It's been a good morning, early morning, and excited to be here. Hopefully, have a great conversation, add some value, and yeah, it's cool. I can be here with you. My cousin is behind the monitor, so hopefully he doesn't assassinate my character or something like that. Hopefully we can stay on a good reputation here.
This episode is brought to you by Baseco. Baseco Foundation and Concrete Solutions specialize in foundation repair, waterproofing, and concrete lifting. They have the ability to lift settled or sinking foundations, permanently waterproof homes and structures, underpin and support new foundations and structures, erect sizable block retaining walls, and lift settled concrete slabs, including sidewalks, driveways, patios, and garage floors.
Yeah, I know Rock personally, and he's a close friend, and I wouldn't trust anyone else as a real estate investor. The foundation's the most important piece, and it can make or break any deal, so we appreciate Baseco. This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up. I was going to bring up Micah as well. I mean, Micah's our marketing guy around here, and he's going to try to paint Isaac in the most real light. He's going to chime in from time to time, and he's got the lie detector button, so he could call out any BS. Micah, why don't you tell us kind of like an embarrassing story from Isaac's childhood to kind of break the ice?
So, me and Isaac.
Take everything he says with a grain of salt.
Me and Isaac were really, really big on making short films because obviously I'm into cameras. That's what I do right now. And we made a film called The Demon of the Gulch. It's just a dumb horror short film thing, still on my YouTube channel. It's still live. Go look up.
It's still the best video ever.
Put it in the show notes.
And Isaac had a little crush across the street, a young lady named, well, we won't name her. We won't name her for her sake.
Just
but
in case she watches this.
Isaac was young and in love. And, man, he decided he wanted to continue the Demon of the Gulch series, and he with a sequel, but this sequel was not a horror movie. This was
Yes, it was.
No, it was not. This was The Demon of the Gulch, the love story.
Ooh.
And I just remember the most amazing shots, and Isaac clearly nervous and clearly just young in love, holding her hand, walking down the little riverside walkway, and afterwards all the drama and him telling me, dude, I just laid next to her on the grass. I just laid next to her in the grass and listened to the Imagine Dragons song. What's the song called? I don't remember.
Dude, they don't even know what the song was, bro.
Oh, sounds like a moment.
Dude, it was a moment, dude, and it was a very, one thing I'll take credit for is I directed that and acted as basically the main actor, and it was an incredible film. Most sequels don't surpass the original. That one did. I think you have to give some credit for not being a cinematographer, but having enough skill and creativity to actually make something like that happen. So yeah, I love some props for that.
I think the embarrassing part of it is in Isaac's enormous affinity for this girl. And he was just, I've just never seen a 15-year-old, 16-year-old so head over heels
I'm a hopeless romantic, dude. I'm a hopeless romantic.
And anyways, go look up the Demon of the Gulch. The Demon of the Gulch 2 is deleted for good reason. So
Yeah, that one will never be surfaced again. But Demon of the Gulch 1 is and has been out, so it's a great film. It's got a great story. Do you remember the guys' names? Mike, freaking Josh.
I don't remember.
And yeah, just very
And was this here
interesting
in
names.
town or
no, when Isaac was living up in Highland, Utah.
Okay.
And I would go visit from New Mexico.
Right.
And we would do it on, like over Christmas break whenever I'd go up there.
Just put a little short film
I just
together.
think it's interesting that like the perfect combination mixed where like and my cousins, we just wanted to be like in front of the camera. Micah was behind the camera, and we all just put our heads together and made an incredible story. And those were the stories that brought us to where we are today.
That's art.
In this room right now.
And you guys were 15 at the time.
Probably, roughly.
15,
I think
16.
even younger than that.
Younger than that.
How old are you today, Isaac?
I'm 20, but I turned 21 next month. I'm in that weird stage where it's like I'm 20, but I'm like so close to 21 that I feel like I should say 21, but I'm not. I'm 20.
Sure.
And I have to say, to Isaac's credit, I have way more just incredible stories with him. Like, some of my favorite stories from my childhood were just with Isaac. And so, that's to his credit.
You have- I am a good person.
Some blackmail, but also some good ones too. Well, we'll get into those
A
a
lot
little
of
bit.
life was lived with Micah, dude. That's for sure.
That's awesome, man. I invited you on the podcast because you're 20 years old, and I see a lot of ambition. I see a lot of things that I think would benefit our audience to hear. But I mean, it's so crazy being 20 and being fresh from your mission and starting to get involved in business circles. Like I got involved in business circles when I was 23, which when you're young, every year is like a long time. And I feel like, dude, that was such like everyone was like, oh man, that's so crazy. You're doing business and you're 24, 25, it's like, wow. And now I'm 30 and people don't think I'm special anymore because I'm in my 30s now. But I think when I was 20, dude, I didn't even know the first thing about business. I was just trying to pass class. I was playing football. And so I think it's really cool to see you come home with some direction and maybe speak a little bit to why do you think you're wired that way? Like what makes you come home and want to get in business circles and try to start bettering yourself and build something off the bat when a lot of people would say, hey, enjoy your college years and just kind of play around?
That's a good question. And I appreciate you having me on here. When I do podcasts like this, it's so funny. So I'm doing these, we'll touch on this later, but I'll set this up. So I'm doing these workshops and I was practicing them with Micah. And I was just, when you're practicing something and you'll go on and then you'll mess up and you're like, oh, dang it. Oh, we'll just restart. Micah was like, dude, just relax. You're putting so much pressure on yourself. And I just started thinking about a specific individual that I want to impact with the workshop. Instead of thinking of a group, I got to go talk to a group, I thought of so-and-so.
Yeah.
So with this podcast, it's that's my goal is, I just want to speak to so-and-so. So-and-so maybe is in the same stage of life or a similar stage of life, or even if he's not around my age or she's not around my age, that there's something they can glean from this conversation that's valuable. Lincoln once said, everything I am and everything I hope to be, I owe to my darling mother. That's my first impression when you ask a question like that. It's I don't really know how much I could really attribute to myself when I've just had the greatest parents to raise me, I can look up to as examples. Because that's the biggest thing, dude. I it's not just they were good people. It's the way they taught me, the way they kind of let me live my life, but also taught me correct principles. The way when I was going a little off the wayside, maybe, that they corrected me, but in a way that was effective, not in a way that made me resent them.
Yeah.
All those combinations. And then, of course, my dad being who he is, I had the tremendous blessing of being able to associate with so many people that most people either just don't know about or maybe get a glean from a video or a podcast. I got to hang out with people that help me see bigger, help me believe in myself. So frankly, I just had parents that told me they were proud of me, that believed in me, that loved me genuinely and genuinely wanted me to succeed. And that gave them relationship equity to where I trusted them and trusted their counsel and their example. So I want to be like them. And
Yeah.
I think and of course, I also have to attribute a massive amount to my faith. That I feel like will be the biggest thing that would get me anything that would matter in my life, everything that would make me successful or significant would have to, at the base level, be contributed to my faith in Jesus Christ. And any deviation from that path, any failure to be significant, any way that I wouldn't fulfill my potential will be attributed to me like not making that the center of my life.
Yeah.
So my parents and God. For a simple answer.
That's a great answer. I mean, and I think it's an answer that I can resonate with, because I always tell people, like, I feel like I was dealt the best hand I could be dealt out of this deck of cards. You know what I mean? And so, like, when we talk about in a spiritual context, like, a lot of times we look in like other people's decisions, and in the church we have this doctrine where it's like between death and the resurrection, everyone's going to get the same. I feel like they're going to get the same hand I was dealt, but to hear you acknowledge it and say, like, look, like, I have no excuses to be anything but excellent, right? It's like I can really relate to that, because that's how I feel. Is like, look, I had awesome parents. They created an environment in the home where the Spirit was there, right? So I grew up around that. I know what's right. I saw miracles. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think you tied it really well with just your parents, your faith. That kind of brings it home. You mentioned, your dad, right? And he's the one, right? That's his motto, is be the one, right? So I'm
the second. I'm the diet prince, according to him.
The diet prince.
That's not true, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the second, like it's like the Demon of the Gulch movie. Like the second's better than the original. Like I've come to take what he's got and humbly get bigger arms than he has, and humbly speak on bigger stages than he's spoken at. So
I love that, dude. And that's an interesting dynamic, because it's like, what do most kids that are born with like a father or dad like yours, like, they either, I think a lot of times those great times create weak men, right? Circle. So, I mean, how do you avoid, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying the cycle where it's like hard times create great men create great times, and then great times create weak men. And
yep.
Like, we have to go through that cycle. So how do you make sure that, that's a lot of, we don't want to put pressure on us, but also, like, how do you take all the blessings you've been given and go to work versus like just maybe try to ride his coattails? You know what I mean?
I think the first thing I'd say is gratitude. I just feel this immense gratitude for what I've been given. One thing that I lack as a 20-year-old is contrast. I don't have the decade that you have ahead of me. I don't have a 9-to-5 that I've worked for a decade. I don't have, you know what I'm saying? I don't have these contrasts. And even in other areas, like, there's just a lot of lack of contrast I have because of my younger age.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I can still use my imagination to think, if I was dealt this hand, if I was in this situation, I think about like the movie The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
If I was in his, Will Smith's character, if I was in his situation, how would I receive, or how would I think about the blessings I've been getting? How would I think about the dad I have? How would I think about the living circumstance I have? How would I think about the information I've learned? That is what I want to have. My dad always instilled in me just a respect and a gratitude for the things I have. Just always reminding me that on Thanksgiving there are people that didn't have Thanksgiving dinner, or on Christmas there was kids that didn't get presents. Things like that give you a contrast in your perspective.
Yeah.
It helps me not just feel grateful for what I have, but it helps me enjoy what I have, but then feel this responsibility of, I get a privilege of sharing it and encouraging other people with it. That's the biggest thing. One of my biggest personality traits is when I go through something difficult, I want to obviously overcome it, or or feel it enough to where it creates a positive change in me for the end.
Yeah.
And then be able to share that positive change with someone else. That's something that gives me a ton of significance. But like, how do I not like just ride off his coattails? I mean, I think in a lot of ways I have. And I instead of trying to not, I just humbly, the best I can, just say, you know, this is the card I've been dealt. So why don't I just magnify what he's given me instead of try and like reinvent the wheel or try and say, I gotta do it my way. It's like,
I like
he's
that.
already provided so much for me. So why don't I just take advantage of that and use it for better purposes?
Yeah, and like you said, there is like your dad's goal is that you do bigger and better things than he ever did, right? Like
To an extent. But yes, exactly right.
I think deep down.
No,
Like,
exactly.
I know for me, like I have a son, and there is no question in my mind. He's 7 months old. There's no question in my mind that I'm building this so he can do something bigger and
Yep.
better. You know,
Totally.
So I don't even have to guess with your dad, Justin. Like he's for sure wants more for you than he ever is gonna carve out for himself, and I love that. And I think it's cool that you brought up gratitude as a tool to paint a contrast to without having to experience things. You can use gratitude to almost simulate an experience and still create a positive change. Right. That's pretty powerful. I think a lot of us need that, and I think that's a big deal. So thanks for sharing that. And I think it's I like you said, I'm not gonna shy away from the big opportunity I have to capitalize on the momentum. But
I couldn't not, and
Yeah.
I also couldn't. I almost feel like, in a way, I used to kind of feel like I had to. Like, obviously, there's certain things I'm not only going to choose to earn for myself, but need to earn for myself. It's not like I'm just going to say, okay, well, you've built this. Now I'm just going to go ahead and not experience things for myself. There's things that you need to be experienced, but how could I ever act like the confidence my dad instilled in me, or how could I ever act like the people he helped me surround myself with, or how could I ever act like the love he so abundantly gave me, and my mom for that example too. How could I ever act like that was something that I just kind of had to earn on my own? Like, that was just something that was given to me. And in reality, I don't know, not to get too deep here, but it's like the heart you have beating right now has beated every second or every 2 seconds or beat it twice every second for your whole life without you doing anything. That was just a gift. The gift just given to you. So I feel like I've just had these gifts given to me. I'm just kind of like, I'm going to take advantage where I need to, but also got to take my own path where I need to as well.
Yeah, I like that. And lastly on this, so we can transition a little bit, but I think it's like the parable of the talents, right? Like one person's given one person's given 3, one person's given 5. And if you're given 5, you got to go multiply that. So I think that's what you're touching on when you said, I got to magnify this. And I love that. So you get on from your mission. A lot of times it takes people years to get some direction, which is normal and good and healthy. And sometimes they're better off for not, jumping the gun on their decisions. But I think the earlier you can get direction, obviously the better, right? Because this is a time game. So how have you got direction as you've only been home a short time?
Definitely from relying on God. But I'll also say this. It's the same story that's been told through humanity, and this is the story. Difficulty mixed with opportunity. So every difficulty you have is an opportunity. Here, let me explain. When I got home, it was the lowest I've ever felt in my life. I felt like I didn't matter as much as when I was a missionary, because I felt like I wasn't really good at real life as I was as a missionary, which is a silly thing, right? As you say these thoughts, it's funny because you're listening. I want you to just think about for a second, what are your 3 most negative thoughts that you get on a routine basis? It's funny that when we say it in a conversation like this, it sounds silly, but in reality, we believe these lies and it makes us shrink. I believed lies that I didn't matter. I believed lies that I was too young to do anything significant. I believed lies that, girls wouldn't value me because I was too awkward, I was too whatever. I believed lies that even with my dad, like insecurities, like could I carve out my own life? Like sure he can, but can I?
Sure.
We all have these limiting beliefs and doubts, and I believed these thoughts that would come in my head, And it brought me to a place where I was the most hard on myself and low on myself I've ever been. So that first month and a half of my mission from getting home was just a really hard time for me, very hard time in my head. Again, all suffering is relative. But that difficulty, Ben, it gave me an opportunity. And it's funny because I didn't see it as I was in it, but what I saw was just people around me trying to support me. My dad listening to me, but also giving me really good and sharp advice when needed, helped me to realize certain principles to start to shift my mindset. He just started to be like, dude, your focus creates your feelings. So at least start to analyze things you're focusing on. That got me a few steps ahead, and I just kind of took one step in front of the other. We did a Zoom for my dad's company where this author named John Gordon was on, and the book of the month was his book, The One Truth. So he was live on this Zoom speaking about it. And he started to talk about doubts and these negative thoughts and how to dismantle them. And this book he wrote was all about it. It was like, this is exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
So I get the book. I'm like, Dad, you have that book? I get it. I read the whole thing really quickly. I post my stories just about how it was changing me. And Ben, these principles I was learning, it was like an aha moment, these paradigms. And I would totally recommend anyone who's struggling with negative thoughts or doubtful thoughts and feeling like you're this big to go read that book. And it's so interesting because if I didn't have that struggle, that book would have never resonated with me, or at least not as much to the degree it did. I've read a lot of great books. And because it resonated with me so much, John actually personally reached out to me and said, I've seen you read my book so quickly and just start to like have this light about you, this change about you. He's like, I want you to come to my event in Texas.
Wow.
And I'll pay for your certification, but I want you to be one of my certified facilitators and join my young leadership. He's like doing this program with college age students to share his content. And he wanted me to be one of his, like, in his group of
nice,
like kind of handpicked people. And so here I am in Texas at this certification that would cost, more than I had in my bank account. And I'm just like, what the heck? And next thing I know, I'm doing these workshops where I'm sharing his books and these principles that have helped me so much with other people my age. And I'm realizing something, that difficulty was really an opportunity. And I'm also realizing that as I keep seeing that, and as I keep just embracing it, I'm not saying we need to just not feel difficulty. Difficulty is meant to be felt, and it's meant to hurt. It is. That's supposed to give us something to give. So now I'm really excited for the future as I see how so many opportunities are opening up in so many different directions that I didn't even see. I didn't know I was going to do that when I got my permission. Everyone thinks they have this little idea of what's going to happen. But you just keep moving forward. You listen to those you trust and respect, and you trust God, and you just try to serve others. It's like these simple answers, and he just seems to do something valuable with your life, way more valuable than you could have done. Yeah,
I like that. I love that the book had such a big impact on you and helped squash those limiting beliefs, because I feel like that confidence is huge, and not just confidence, but just like the messages we tell ourselves, right?
And I still have those issues.
Yeah.
It's not like it's been completely eradicated, but it's like giving me tools.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at using the tool. The muscles getting stronger. But if I didn't have that struggle, Ben, it's like, how could God have used me not just to, how could it, one, if he have like taught me these things and have it be received so well, how could he have used me to help other people with that?
Yeah.
It's just, there is difficulty mixed with opportunity. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. I think that's a big takeaway. I mean, so now you have some of the tools, you have, you kind of got out of this funk, and now, I mean, I met you after that probably. Well, there was one day we came over right after you got home, and I didn't really get a chance to chat with you, but
probably looked at me and you're like, dude, what's going on in that kid's head? I was just like,
no, I was just like, welcome home.
I'm like, yeah, I'm glad to be home too. Hey, any return missionary watching this has, I don't know, some get home and they just get right into college, they get right into work, and they're rolling. Bro, it was a struggle for me. So if you had that struggle, we resonate on that level.
That's cool. So now what's the next step? Like what's on your mind when you wake up in the morning? What are you working towards? What are you chasing?
So again, opportunity mixed with difficulty. Here's another difficulty I had. I was super diligent with my phone usage on my mission. I would have a timer set for 1 minute every time I used Facebook. It was the only social media app we had. I was just so, I never experienced this life where I was ultra focused, ultra disciplined, ultra diligent, and genuinely served people and felt a meaningful impact on others. Then I get home and my natural devices lead me to scrolling a ton, being distracted, unfocused, unprioritized, to where I'm realizing there's things I want to accomplish and I'd rather scroll than take action. I'm just like, what is happening? And I had this frustration. And gosh, it was uncomfortable. I really want to say this, and I'm sure I really don't mean the way this sounds, but I felt worthless. I just felt like, why am I wasting so much time? And of course, we're not worthless, but I felt worthless. Maybe you felt that way too. And I remember telling my dad about this. I was like, Dad, I just want to like be diligent on my phone. I want to use Instagram to like as a voice, but I don't want to
create. Yeah.
I don't want to just be a consumer all the time. And I told him, I'm right on that line of where I'm so sick and tired of this that's going to change, but I'm not there yet. I feel like I'm right before there, where it's like the worst part, because you're just like, this sucks, but I'm not like so uncomfortable I have to change.
Sure.
In reality, Ben, I think it sucked a lot more than I gave it credit for. And it wasn't until I said that I was like, my dad asked me this question: what will happen if you don't change? I was like, well, I'll be miserable. And then I was like, well, if I'm miserable, I'll attract who I am. So if I'm miserable and I attract people who are miserable, ultimately I'm just going to be alone. So miserable and alone, that's not awesome. I was like, shoot, like I'm really going to be miserable and alone if I keep living this way. And it created enough pain. Again, humans are motivated by pain and pleasure. It's like we do things because we're trying to avoid pain or trying to gain pleasure, and whichever is stronger is the one we're going to move to. So I had enough pain to where I was like, I need to move. And I don't, if you want to go into this, we can, but I'm a little weird. Sometimes I get these like images in my head of like, I feel like they're these like kind of mini dreams or mini visions that God gives me and almost an answer to what I'm needing. So I have this problem. I'm unfocused and unprioritized. And I get this vision in my head. Check this out. It's in the middle of the night. I can tell it's dark. I'm driving my car. I'm listening to Jim Rohn. And there must have been a caption on this dream that said it's 4 a.m.
Okay.
And I see this mountain. It's like a, kind of steep hill I'm going to go hike. And I just was like, okay, that was interesting. But something about it felt exciting. I go to this mastermind that I help facilitate called the Winner Circle Mastermind. It was a great, great, great time.
This is just recently, right?
Yeah, this was like a few weeks ago. And I finished facilitating this group where we're setting actionable steps to achieve our goals. And someone challenged me, what action are you going to take? And I said, you know what? I've never thought about this before, but I've had this vision in my mind recently where I'm hiking this hill at 4 a.m. He's like, I want to shoot that. I want to do that. But I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to do 4 a.m. because like that's really early. So maybe like 6 a.m. And I don't really know what hill to hike. I mean, that one's pretty crazy. Like maybe I could do that one. And then one of the guys in the group, who is one of the guys that impressed me the most, he looks at me and he's like, which one? Like, which time? I'm like, uh-oh. So he starts nailing me down. I made a goal to wake up at 4 a.m. and hike a hill every morning for a month.
Wow.
Which also means an early bedtime. And I'm on day 10.
All right.
And so I did that this morning.
We'll grab a monster if we need one.
Hey, that's Micah's alley, man. He taught me about monsters, man. I never indulged, but yeah.
I have to add that Isaac has never had an energy drink
Or a soda.
or tasted it.
Nope.
Not once in his whole life.
Not once.
Or a soda.
Or a soda.
So like a Sprite.
Nope. I've had a sip of Sprite, but I've never had anything else. Yeah. It's a little fun fact for you.
Well, I'd had soda. I never drank caffeine until I had to drive a trailer home. I had to wake up in Oklahoma and drive all the way back to St. George in one shot. So, anyways, I lasted till I was 20, but not till I was 25.
Well, hey, who knows? That late night to Oklahoma, Monster's calling my name. We'll see how that goes. But
keep going.
Because I don't want to die.
Tangent.
I don't want to die. I have had massive change in my life because of that decision.
That's so
And it's not just because I'm doing something. It's interesting, Ben. I'm not doing this to impress other people. I'm not doing this because it's trendy. I'm not doing this because I will freely admit, it is kind of nice to tell people I wake up at 4 a.m. Okay? But some people probably look at that and they're like, dude, I wake up at 4 a.m. and do freaking Ironman or something, right? Like, you know, people are always heightening the level. So it's probably not that hard for some people. But for me, it was a challenge. And dude, it's already made me way more focused on my time. I'm really enjoying it. I'm not just like, okay, I've got to go hike this mountain. I get to. It's a gift. It's something that helps me win the day. It helps me get momentum. It helps me have maybe some time to just pray, maybe some time to ponder and think. It's so interesting how that difficulty of being unfocused led me to this decision that I now, it's not just for a month I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go back to sleeping in. Because I asked myself this question, what would I do if I could design my life? Would I just sleep in every day? Is that really the life you would want to live? If money wasn't an issue, Ben, how would you want to live?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it's a great question.
Do you want to just sleep in and just, I really thought about this. I was like, okay, I'll be in my dream house. I'll be in the deck, beautiful sunset. You know, I've got a freaking pond in the backyard. I love animals. I'm just like thinking about all these things. And then it's like, money's not an issue. What do you do with your life? And I'm just like, okay, so I go downstairs, I get some food, go back upstairs. Be like, I watch a movie and then like, I'm kind of like, so what's the deal? Like, what's actually going to matter at the end of the day? And that's when I realized I get the freedom to design my life, which is a blessing. I live in America. We breathe the air of economic opportunity and financial, really limitless potential. So I'm like, I want to live my life where I'm rising early and I'm winning the morning and I'm pouring into my mind. I listen to Jim Rohn every morning or another thought leader and I'm becoming a better person. I'm learning, I'm growing, and then I can be a river and I can pour that value to other people. So I'm starting to just get just a little bit of a taste of what a life I would design on my own terms would actually be. And it's not sleeping in, it's not taking the easy route. It's oftentimes doing things that are helping me learn, helping me grow.
I like that. I just love the practice and the exercise of just letting yourself really have that dream of like, if time and money were not constraints on my life, what would I be doing? I feel like a lot of people go through their whole life
never think about it.
They never ask themselves that question.
Totally agree. My dad has a book. I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
He has a book where, and this would be the one where he has an exercise about creating your 3D vision. You write down 50 goals you want to accomplish in the next 10 years, 1 to 10 years. And it's hard. Most people can get to like 10. Just be like, I'm out. Like, okay, dude, I've got all this great stuff. Now what? And that's when you really start to you start to ask yourself specific questions. You know, like, do you want a house? What kind of house? Like, what do you want to have at the house? A pool, a pond? Do you want it to be big? Do you want it to have a view? What kind of view? Do you want to be in California? Do you want to be in Hawaii? Do you want to be in Utah? You start asking these questions that really get you thinking. You want a family? What kind of family do you want? Do you want to, be married? Like, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your wife? Do you want to have a car? What kind of car? What color? How fast? Where do you want to go with it? What kind of experiences do you want to have with your family? You start asking these questions that actually get you thinking like, whoa, I could like design something like this. You're not stuck in the monotonous day to day. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, we need to do it because if you never give yourself that chance, like you never open up yourself to, go and live it. And I think something that like me and my wife, we do annual goal setting now. You'll have that fun opportunity soon. And
hopefully
we could chat about that. But like we look at just spreading that to all of our friends and family too. It's like it's not quite the gospel, but it's like the gospel of like no regrets, like just live life to the total fullest. So yeah, it's great. Tell us more about the event. So the Winner's Circle, what's the mission of the Winner's Circle and kind of what's your goal and role with it?
So I have a good friend that I've kind of gotten a strong relationship with as I've returned home from my mission. His name's Caden Terry. He's been
on the podcast.
Oh, he has?
Just so you know.
Awesome.
Go back to Caden's episode.
So Caden and his friend Jackson, who's probably been on this too. If not, he should be.
He used to produce this.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So he and Caden and they were the ones that kind of started this. I just kind of came into it saying I have like a similar vision of getting people who are either beginning success or at least desiring to live life in a different way, in a different gear, get them together, pour into them, add value at an affordable cost, right? We're not going to some crazy event where we're going to spend thousands of dollars. So that's really the mission of the Winner's Circle, is to get people together who are like-minded, trying to live a better life, to network together, to live life together, to pour into each other. So we had a weekend event this past 2 weeks ago. We got to do that goal setting activity. We got to dream. We got to be vulnerable with each other about things that we want to improve on, that we're struggling with. And just create friendships, man. Like, life's not about where you go as much as it is who you go with. One of my definitions of success is going through life with people that I love, like spending time in beautiful places that are made unforgettable by the people I spend them with. So creating masterminds, facilitating these workshops, I feel like that's where I feel the most significant. I feel like that's where I'm personally adding the most value to other people.
Yeah, you're creating an experience and relationships, which is really what life's about. Like what you said, it's not about like how much money you make. Like obviously we're all going for a lot of money, but it's about relationships and experiences first, and then everything else kind of falls into place as long as it's the right relationships and the right experiences. What was some of the big takeaways that maybe some of our listeners who didn't get to go, what was some of the big things that, besides just your new commitment to do the
that was definitely the biggest takeaway.
Big, hairy, audacious goal of hiking at 4 a.m. every morning. What was the takeaway that you feel like the group walked away with?
That's a good question. It's possible. Jim Rohn has this 2-hour lecture on YouTube. It's funny. My dad listened to this same lecture, but on a freaking cassette tape or something.
That's awesome.
At a time when he was at a low point in his life. And I've listened to it at least twice. And at the very end, he says, we now have enough testimonials and experiences to prove that it is possible to live and design an extraordinary life. So if there's one thing I really, really, really took away, and I really hope other people took away that I think they did, it's that it's possible. It's possible to design your life. It's possible to have that relationship. It's possible to create the lifestyle of your dreams. It's possible. That's what I would say.
That's great. And especially for your demographic of just letting people know you don't have to wait a certain amount of time to go get it. Like, I think a lot of times that's the downfall of people in their 20s is like, that's just for a different decade, right? Like I gotta wait till I'm, in my 30s to be a millionaire or make 6 figures or whatever your goal is.
And you've got to just ask yourself the right questions. Like, what is your outcome? Like Tony Robbins always uses this goal setting activity called RPM, right? Results, purpose, massive action plan. What result are you after? Like, what is the outcome you want to have in your 20s?
Yeah.
And I look, I'm no expert on it. I am 20, so I guess the 20s are to be had for me. But I just think about what outcomes I want. And then I think about why I want those outcomes, why they matter. And then I just start to connect the dots as far as resources to act and to achieve it. It comes little by little.
Yeah, I like that. What's maybe your biggest obstacle or challenges that you're facing right now as you kind of try to get to the next goal you're trying to achieve?
The biggest thing for me is limiting beliefs. Whenever I bring up something that I'm struggling with or having an issue with someone I trust, like my dad, I'll often preface it with this. I am totally and completely willing to challenge whatever belief is holding me hostage to this. And it's so interesting when we start to realize that beliefs we have that we are certain about, because we're just like, this is the way it is, this is the way I am, this is the way people react to me, this is how people think about me. When we have these beliefs, they're unquestioned. And we just kind of take them as reality, whether they came from someone else or they came from maybe our parents or, they just kind of come from wherever. When in reality, we have to realize that we can choose which beliefs to grab onto. And you might think, well, what if both are true? Right? A negative belief, but it's true, and a positive belief, but it's true. Which one do you grab onto? And this, I believe this is what Tony Robbins would say. Which is more empowering?
Right.
That's the one that you want to grab onto. So for me, man, I've just had limiting beliefs about like my worth as far as like dating goes. Like I've had limiting beliefs and still struggle to an extent of like, why would, the girl of my dreams want to have me? Or like, why would she even care about me? Like, what do I have to offer? Right? What kind of life am I creating or providing? I know it sounds so silly, right? You hear this and you're like, what are you talking about, right?
We don't get many bachelors on, but it's fun. It's fun to think about now because I'm married, but Micah's about to be married, and I'm guessing, do you have a girlfriend now? Okay, so we got a true bachelor here.
True bachelor
on the market.
6 months from the mission, man. So I have, there's limiting beliefs that I can recognize I have because I've been introduced to this concept, this paradigm that there are beliefs that we attach ourselves to, and then we create outcomes based on those beliefs. It's like, if I didn't believe lifting weights would make me strong, if I didn't believe that was possible, why would I go lift weights? So I have to have some kind of belief that there's an outcome that's possible by doing a certain thing. And then when I do that, I'll show up with, like, if you said, dude, if you work out 7 days this week, you'll have, with your biceps, you'll get 1 inch onto your arms. If I was certain of that outcome, I'd put in massive action. I'd work out every day. But if I didn't have that certainty about that outcome, I wouldn't. So these beliefs create certainty, and they create certainty about what we're trying to achieve. And if you just believe, dude, no matter where I go, no matter how successful I get, I will act in a way that I lose the people that I love most in my life. If you have that kind of belief, you'll create it. It will create in reality. So sure, I know what limiting beliefs are. I understand they're limiting. It's the very definition. But Ben, I do struggle with those, and I struggle with them. But I do find them to be very instructive because it helps me help someone else with limiting belief. I can kind of say, look, I've been there. I felt that way. I've had these similar thoughts. This is what I found. This is what I felt. This is what I found. And here's where I'm going to go now.
Yeah.
That's been like kind of on the backside of insecurities or on the backside of limiting beliefs, something that's made it more meaningful for me, I guess.
Yeah, we get at that a lot, which is a question we talk about a lot on this podcast and just in general conversation is just like, the best way to serve is to think of like what you were going through and look for someone who's like who going through what you used to experience, right? And I feel like that's pretty cool, audience that you guys have with the Winner's Circle is just the group of guys that they're just maybe one epiphany away from something really big.
And by the way, I would say that was everyone's biggest problem. At some level, there was a belief that wasn't true or disempowering that someone was believing that was causing them to feel a certain way and causing them to act a certain way. And it was so cool to see how similar we all are. We're so similar in the things we're insecure about. We're so similar in the ways we struggle or think about ourselves. And that's even more of the reason why we need to find people who we can we can climb the mountain with. We got people who are pulling up the mountain. We got people who are running the mountain with, and we got people who have already achieved it and we're emulating them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. You kind of want to surround yourself with people who are, like running alongside you, people who maybe need a hand up. And like, also it's really important to expose yourself to people who have done it. And like, maybe you don't feel comfortable in that circle, but give it a shot. And most people are really generous, right? Like your dad came on the podcast and we've had a lot of like heavy hitters come on and just to provide value. And so I feel like a lot of people that if they see that you have that good intent, like that author, he saw in you, like this guy is applying my principles. And then he became your advocate. Like he's cheering you on now because you went and applied what he's teaching.
You know what's so interesting? He told me once, he said, my intent for you is that you take this certification, you leverage it to basically build your kind of brand, or at least just kind of get into this world of speaking and personal development. And then I hope you go do your own thing and you go be as big as you can be. And that was so interesting to hear because I feel like sometimes we have this belief that like, I've got to like almost, they've got to like kind of lower, like if people get too big, I'll lose them.
Yep.
And, Zig Ziglar has this incredible philosophy. If I help enough people get what they want, then I'll get what I want. I'll get what I need. And that mindset of abundance where it's like, John Gordon is not trying to create a bunch of people just promoting himself. And it's so funny because that's what I like. I didn't come to this event saying like, yeah, dude, I'm just going to do these workshops for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
instead, I saw it as an opportunity to develop my speaking skills and add value and share something that I believed in, but ultimately to do something that I was called to, right? Kind of like the middle step before the other step. And he knew that. He knew that without even me saying that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good mindset he displayed. A good principle he exemplified was this belief that if I help enough people get what they want, I get what I want. This kind of belief in like, no one has to lose for me to win. And my dad always says, always do more than you're paid for as an investment in your future. Like, oh man, I just want more of that. I want to do more than I'm paid for, do more, add more than they expected, because that's who the heck I am.
He brought that up in our conversation, how he said it makes him sick that people are doing what's called being quiet quitting, where they're just doing such a bad job till someone fires them. And so we, we brought that up, and I guess you were probably on your mission when he came on the show, but he was like, he brought that up. It's just like, always do more than you're paid for. Always, like, even if you're just in a job, with flipping burgers, like, always provide a excess. And right, I think that's important. Like, take that principle, and as a business owner, we always got to do that for the customers, provide a customer surplus, right? And as a partner, right, if you have a business partner, it's like you should want to create more value than you're taking, because then they'll want to keep being your partner. But I think it's really cool to hear that guy, he didn't want to try to like hold you down. He's like, dude, use this as a stepping stone and then go spread your wings, right? And I think as business owners, we have to have that mindset, because if we don't, we would we rather like pour into someone and lose them, or not pour into someone and keep them, right? It's like, I don't want a team that I don't ever like build up and help them realize what their potential is. Like, I have a lot of people that they're amazing.
And I feel like it's almost like I would almost switch what you just said to say, like, would you rather not build them and lose them, or lose them and keep them? It's almost like, it's like when you lose yourself, you actually find yourself. It's like kind of that interesting dynamic. It's like the more you just build someone up to the point where they wouldn't need you, that's when you really have them.
Sure.
Is that kind of, I don't even think I totally know what I'm saying.
Well,
but it just makes sense. It's like you kind of, like my dad, for example, he's like you said, he just wants me to be better than he was.
Yeah.
He just pours this like love and this value and this mentorship into me. And it's like, he's like, dude, I want you to just go to the moon. But because of that, it's like, I'll be his friend forever. Isn't that, I don't know, it's an interesting thing.
Well, I want to kind of bring the points together, because I feel like there's a way to do both. There's a way to build people up and keep them. And that's why we're trying to build an empire, right? Because if your goal is anything less than an empire, people are going to have to outgrow you. But if there's something big enough where they can make all of their dreams come true, then they'll stay, right? Like, that's kind of, like whatever your business structure is, like that's at the end of the day what it comes down to. But if they're not built up, if they're not intrinsically happy, if they don't feel like they're growing as a person, the money won't be enough. But if they are, yeah, you're in a race to try to carve out a big enough piece of the pie, like financially, to keep them, but at least you have a shot, and you can feel good about your efforts, where if you don't pour into people, you can't, right? It's just unfulfilling. So I think that's kind of the gap, is like, you have to have a personal empire sized vision, or else you can't do, they will outgrow you.
And people want to accomplish their vision, right? I think vision casting is like helping people see a bigger life for themselves. Like my dad's mentor would cast this vision for my dad about who he could be, what he could achieve, what kind of money he could make. So big that my dad didn't even believe in himself to that level. And it was funny because it's like in the book How to Influence People. It's like don't talk in terms of like it's like if I was speaking, like, I don't want to talk in terms of my needs or my wants, talk in terms of the other person's wants. It's like helping them win, helping them get what they want, like you said, like their dreams, and then finding a way to like share that with them.
Yeah.
That's so fulfilling. I love helping people win, and it would be an incredible dishonor to myself to not put people in the best place for their own fulfillment and happiness and potential. And so like with business, it's like a kind of a sacred stewardship, you know. You have to like, I don't know, it's like what John Maxwell says. He's just like, I just want to add value to people. And that's like where I want to stay, because I realize like I can get prideful, and I realize I can maybe miss the mark, or I can miss the target. But if I just value people and just pour into them, that's going to be the best yield, the best benefit.
I love that, man. And I think you're doing it. You're pouring into people, you're taking action. And it sounds like that's the vehicle you're most passionate about. Like, I know you're doing insurance, a great vehicle. You're doing Make Wellness, but it sounds like the vehicle you really want to be in long term is just the speaking, the motivation, the pouring into people, like that side of it, right? Personal development. Yeah. What's your vision? Like if you could take that to the moon, what does that personal development business look like?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. My dream is that I can become the kind of person that moves people with words. That, man, if they got to spend whatever time it was with me, that they'll come away believing themselves. They'll come away with tools that they can take to change their life, that they can come away and go serve the world better, go serve their families better and their friends better. I have a dream that one day, probably here in St. George, I just love St. George so much. I want to be...
Good. We're both here for a while.
I want to be... I've always admired people who poured into people that didn't have anything to give back to them. It's one thing if you pour into people who are going to give you tons of money or are really prestigious. I've always admired people who pour into those who have nothing, they have nothing to gain from. I want to be a pillar in my community where people seek me out to come speak to their group, come speak to their team, come speak to their event, as at almost a local level, as just a way that I just want to just build this and grow this and create an abundance. And just because that's what I love doing. I just love doing that. And I think what you love doing shows most when you have nothing to gain out of it. Except that I feel very significant when I get to make a positive difference in someone's life. So that's my ultimate dream. I want to be like a pillar in this community, serving and adding value and just growing in any way I can. Like just any way that I can make St. George better or make this area better. But then I also want to spread that to millions of people. I want to make a significant impact in millions of people's lives through what I feel is my talent, which is connecting with people through communication, being able to move them.
Yeah. Well, we've certainly accomplished that today, man. I know that there's tons of takeaways that our audience is going to be able to glean and take home. And I'm excited. I'm not leaving. I'm here. So I get to watch the whole journey from 20 years old, almost 21. Dude, where Almost.
I'm like basically 21, guys.
You can't quite go to the Eureka yet, but a couple months, right? But no, dude, it's gonna be crazy just to see the hockey curve growth. Like, I know I started my business a couple years older than you are, but just like those first couple years, you just have hockey curve growth where you're just like 1,000% growth 4 years in a row. You know what I mean? It's awesome. And I can't wait to see you experience that and be along for the ride. I know that you made an impression on me, just so fresh, and I'm excited to be able to be your friends and connect and do business together over the decades if we're both going to stick around. And yeah, I'd say we come up with some good things, even though we had some blackmail at the beginning. I think your cousin's all right. What do you think, Micah?
Sorry, I couldn't come up with better blackmail, but Isaac's too sharp of a kid to.
Oh, if we can dig up that romantic laying on the grass, listening to Imagine Dragons,
it's funny,
that's blackmail.
No one knows exactly what we're talking about when we say this. I don't even know what they would envision if they even took the time to envision it at all. But like, But like, I know exactly what he's talking about. I know the exact shot. I remember telling them where to put the camera in the shot. I was like, okay, we're gonna hold hands right here, and then we're gonna walk away, and the camera's gonna be like right here. So it's gonna be like, and oh my word! So I know exactly what he's talking about. No one here probably does, hopefully. And yeah, so
Here's this, just the.
oh wow,
There it is.
That's the background music.
yes.
And Isaac, listen to this song. To this day, this song will come. Isaac will play this song. It's his favorite song, right?
Not my favorite song. Kind of makes me sad, honestly. But I, it's a good song. I don't like.
Sometimes the sad song's great on a morning hike at 4 a.m.
I'm like a deep thinker, so if I listen to songs like that, dude, I'm about to get like all pondering and like in my feels. So like, that's what I save for like the sad moments when I just need to be sad for a second. Then I can be like, okay, I felt sad. Now we can like get back to square one and start listening to Creed again. Start getting
There you
Creed
go.
2 soundtrack back on. Get some freaking Top Gun Maverick. Get some of that going.
Now we're talking none of the screamo heavy metal that Micah loves.
Micah has the worst taste of music of anyone ever. And if
You gonna take that, bro?
Listen,
he knows it too.
I would
That's the
love to do a podcast episode about my music taste, and I would love everybody
No one would
to
watch
everybody to watch it and listen to it with an open mind. And I'm pretty sure I can convince 80% of people not to like my music, but to understand why I like it. So,
I mean, I understand why some people, like listening to things that hurt, like your mind and like, hurt your ears. Like I understand it. Like it's like, it's like, dude, yeah, that is something I never understood. I mean, maybe I've understood it, and maybe that doesn't even help because I'm just like, I know Micah, I know how he's wired, but yeah, that music, stay away. Let's put like a caution tape around his albums.
Isaac just has a limiting belief about it, so he needs to work on that.
Well, turns out there's a couple limiting beliefs left for you to fix, Isaac. But this has been a blast.
Some beliefs are meant to be limited.
So you heard it here. We had a great personal development episode. Next up is the screamo rock music from Micah. So stay tuned, and thanks for coming on the show, Isaac.
Thanks so much, Ben.
This episode is brought to you by Baseco. Baseco Foundation and Concrete Solutions specialize in foundation repair, waterproofing, and concrete lifting. They have the ability to lift settled or sinking foundations, permanently waterproof homes and structures, underpin and support new foundations and structures, erect sizable block retaining walls, and lift settled concrete slabs, including sidewalks, driveways, patios, and garage floors.
Yeah, I know Rock personally, and he's a close friend, and I wouldn't trust anyone else as a real estate investor. The foundation's the most important piece, and it can make or break any deal. So we appreciate Baseco.